Hi, it's Friday evening, and a long and tiring week is behind you, so you can finally relax. There's a notification on your phone. Against your better judgment, you decide to pick it up. It's an email from your boss. You can still leave the phone, but you open the email, and it reads, "How far along are you with that report? We need to talk about your progress next Monday." There goes your Friday. Another message, this time from your partner. "We need to talk." Ouch, we all know how that ends. It goes really well with another familiar sentence. "It's not you, it's me." Shivers going down your spine because you know they're not telling the whole story. Of course it's you. It's got to be you. How do you know? Because we all do this sometimes. In my experience, people are ready to lie to get out of difficult emotional situations. Shocker, right? But you know what? That Monday meeting might end up just fine. And this text doesn't have to mean it's a breakup. But we do this all the time. We assign different meanings to situations and things that people tell us. And we often form very negative connotations around them. There is a name for that. In psychology, it's called cognitive bias. There are many cognitive biases, and we actually use them to speed up our decision-making. In his well-known book, Professor Daniel Kahneman talks just how much our brains use these shortcuts. Our brains are overwhelmed with information, and their task is to keep us alive. So they're looking for shortcuts. They have to be efficient, and in that process, they reach to our past. There is some faulty data there, and some of these decisions are just not good. This is how our past creeps into our presence. In a work context, what this means is that you bring your families with you to work every day. For one thing, your family was your first team. It is in your family systems that you first learned your relationship to authority. You handled conflicts. You learned boundaries, or maybe not. So, in these situations, imagine you are one person, and when you show up in an organization, in a work context, you bring along the team of invisibles. That is why leadership is so difficult, because you have, as a leader, one group of people that's in front of you, and then there are the invisibles, and nobody really discusses, but you know what? They are running the show, especially in stressful situations. Now let me draw something for you. If I could tell you that you can do anything you want with these dots, I am pretty sure that a number of you would connect them and make a circle. Some of you would draw lines to make it look like sunshine in children's drawings. Others would add elements so it looks like a screw wheel. My drawing skills are horrifying. Now think of these dots as facts. They are there, the same for everybody. Yet, we see them differently. Somebody will see a wheel, other person will see a sunshine. And this is where most of the conflicts arise in a workplace. We see the facts, we see them differently. Conflicts are stressful, Harvard Business School professor Amy Edmondson did a lot of studies on this, and the data point out that while some people have no problems engaging in conflicts, there are others that will just simply silence their views. They will not say what they think, or perhaps will say something that is socially acceptable in that workplace. Professor Edmondson argues that this limits the learning capacity of the organization. When things are left unspoken and they're left simmering underneath the surface, this creates a crack in the organizational foundation, splitting its life into two halves. You have a socially acceptable things to say. On one hand, they look a lot like harmony, but it can be a false harmony. And on the other hand, you have psychological messages that are still there, they're felt, but they're not expressed. There is a lot of tension around this in organizations. Tension that we don't address because it's not something we like to do. Now, imagine this in an organizational context, and for the purposes of this talk, here's a very simple definition of an organization. A lot of people coming to work. Now, work happens, this is work. We create things that we like, things that we semi-like, and quite frankly, there are certain goods and services that just simply raise our eyebrows. Now, this talk is about this mess right here. And I want to tell you, the mess is real. And I want to make a case that it's the role of leaders to actually untangle the mess and help us achieve our best potential in a workplace. But let's go to the beginning. How do we select leaders? There's a lot of research that suggests that it's the soft skills that matter the most, like resilience, empathy, compassion. Judging by their impact in the organizations, they're anything but soft. Actually, they're super special skills. And they're also special because we learn them differently from technical skills. When we want to learn technical skill, we need to apply our best capacities for an extended period of time, probably, and apply them on a body of knowledge. Take a year out of your life, and you will learn how to code in a programming language. You'll get better by time, but you can learn it objectively. But if you want to learn empathy or resilience, you can read for a year about it. Still, if you do not encounter situations where you can practice this, you will not master the skill. Based on the research that was carried out in the biotech sector, data points out that people rather focus on technical skills and far less on people skills. They believe that technical skills will help them advance in their careers, and they are right, they will, in a short run. But for leadership position and in the long run, it's the people skills that matter the most. If we are unaware of this, we might end up promoting people to leadership position based exclusively on their excellence in technical skills. And you'll get a person who will send that email on a Friday night without giving it a second thought about how it will make you feel. We have to think about this carefully. In our organizations, we need to put focus on a different set of skills. And it is the role of the leaders to actually understand how to open up the team and how to understand the team. Finding purpose in what we do is actually one of the things that we often miss in our workplaces. We all love to feel good about the work that we do. Daniel Pink writes a lot about this, and he talks about autonomy, mastery, and purpose. If we're not comfortable with our skills, we will be faking our way through a day. And that's visible, you know, everybody can see that. Or simply, we will not be fully engaged. When we're not fully engaged, as it is shown by the Gallup's research on employee engagement, we do not perform at our best capacity. On average, globally, only 23% of people reported to be fully engaged in their workplaces. In best practice organizations, this percentage is around 70%. So leaders have to do something about this, but they cannot do much if they only pick up the data that exists on the surface. They need to dig deeper. We are all a collection of all people that have ever affected our development. And while this may sound very obvious to you, this is not something we discuss in workplaces simply because it seems too personal for work. We don't touch that. That's why we often hear and read signs that say, leave your personal life and ego at the door, as if there is a waiting room for our egos, to sit and wait while we're done with work and we can pick it up on our way home. It just doesn't work like that. While these are well-meaning messages, they actually create organizations that do not welcome our whole integrated being. And mind you, there are no people-less organizations. There are no people-less organizations. So if we want to create resilient organizations, we cannot invite people to partially take part. People are rational, but they're also emotional. Okay? And in these contexts, psychological safety really matters. When we are under stress, we show different faces of us, right? We've seen this countless times. This affects the trust in the organization, and there's a lot of research that shows that trust is directly related to organizational performance. So we shouldn't take this lightly. But this is easier said than done, and let me show you how and why. So I'm going to be drawing something again for you. It's going to look a lot like snowman, but I promise you it's not. This is actually ego state model from transactional analysis. Transactional analysis is it's a theory of personality and psychotherapeutic approach to personal development and change. And it has this view on our personalities. Our personalities, this is us, consists of parent, adult, and child. We have several facts here. So we have been born to some people, and some people raised us, okay? So that's why we have the parent. And at some point in our lives, all of us were children, right? The idea is to become adults. But the reality is that psychologically, a lot of people just don't, right? They behave like their mothers, or they behave like they used to behave when they were children. In workplaces, we need to focus on the adult. This is where responsibilities are. This is where your skill set matters, specifically the soft skills. But let's go back to this for a moment. Parent ego state are all the messages, everything you heard from your parents. Thoughts, behaviors, things you picked up. They give you certain rules about life, so you form your worldview, thinking that world is a bad or a good place based on what you hear here. And it actually has two parts. It has a so-called critical parent, and it has a nurturing parent. Critical parent, I'm pretty sure you all have these voices somewhere in your heads, points out your inadequacies. It's in a measure, this is a good element to have because it gives you structure, but if it's too much of it, you end up feeling like you're not good enough. Nurturing parent, on the other hand, is kind, but too kind nurturing parent can actually leave you feeling powerless, that you cannot do things on your own. If we go back, and again, one more thing to mention here, this is where you learn boundaries. And in my opinion, what I've observed is that people prefer to stay in organizations that have similar boundaries, like the boundaries of their family system. So if they're used to structure in their families, they love structure in organizations. If anything goes in a family, anything goes in an organization. If we move back to the child, these are actual thoughts and feelings that we had when we were children. And this ego state also has two parts. It has the adapted child, and it has a free child. Adapted child is a nice, well-behaving child, following the rules, doing everything right. Too adapted becomes a pushover, right? A certain level of adaptation allows you to function properly in social settings. Free child, on another hand, is completely reckless. They attract attention by doing silly things. This child attracts attention by following the rules. Okay, adult is something that I want to stress here at this point. This is here and now. This is our ability to assess reality. When we are very, very little, we do not question the messages that come from our parents simply because we need them to survive. But at some point in life, you gotta ask yourself, is this really true? What does my life show me about this particular view that I inherited from my parents? And this is how you actually grow to become an adult, a lot of critical thinking. A job of leaders is to actually strengthen this, because of a lot of behavior comes from these other two parts. Now let's see if I can give you an example so you can understand the types of messages that are coming from these different ego states. When I was a little girl, I was super well behaved. Like straight A's, never got myself into trouble kid, like really boring. Like really early in life, I figured out that my parents are the happiest when I do everything by rules. This created a lot of pressure because I needed to be perfect all the time. So situations that are emotional bring out that child in me. And I don't know how I look like to you right now, but I swear there's a little girl inside that's just curled up, ready to start crying. She's not, because we had a long discussion last night about this, but she is ready to. And she is about 8 years old. This reckless child I cannot relate to, because I was never reckless until I was 35, but that's not really very relevant right here. So, but still, you know, the feeling is you can still run away. There's a door over there. You don't care. I'm not going to do that. Memo was sent to that kid last night, so I'm not doing it. Parents, you know, I am actually very anxious right now. And the voice I'm hearing in my head is my mom saying, well, you knew about this long time ago. You did not practice. And 3 nights ago, you watched the movie. Like, did you really need to do that? You're just lazy. Now kicks in a nurturing parent saying, come on, you can do this. You've been through worse. You've been through a war. How bad can it be? Are you asking? Because I can answer. The adult, who by the way turns 41 today, is trying to assess the situation. The adult is saying the following. The reality is, none of you have seen my original script. So you have no idea if I'm massively and royally messing this up or I'm doing a good job. So I'm going to power through because I only literally have 3 things to say. And they are the following. As leaders, you are responsible, first of all, to think very deeply about these issues in your own world, right? You have to consult your own invisibles because your responsibility is to help your team function more from the adult and less from the parent and the child ego states. These voices, they are not background noise. They are stakeholders in our lives because they help us make decisions. They influence every decision. They influence our relationships. They influence the organizational culture we have. So we should not ignore them. We should not silence them. We should invite them to the table, welcome them, understand them, and make the best use of them. My parting words for you: look inward as soon as possible, because that is the only way you can truly create workplaces where every voice is heard and every story matters. Thank you.